Hello everyone and welcome. That was a big clap. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and for today's video we are going to be doing my very belated January TBR. All of my videos have been super late recently and for that I sincerely apologize. Speaking of, I never filmed a December wrap-up, so do you still want me to do one even though it will be super late? I would combine it with this one, but I read 13 books in the month of December and I read 9 books in the month of January, which was a great start to my year and a great end to last year, but together that would be a really long video and my wrap-ups are already super long and I don't think that I would want to click on a super duper long wrap-up personally, so I don't think that you guys would want to. So let me know if you still want my December TBR even though it will be super late. Or December wrap-up, I mean. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say. Let's get started. Like I said, I had a really great reading month, quality and quantity-wise, for the most part. So, let's get into the books that I read. The first book that I read was Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls by... I'll put it up on the screen because I genuinely don't remember. I listened to this one on audiobook. It's the title really intrigued me, and the premise sounded interesting. This was a book about a girl whose best friend died, or they had been best friends and then they stopped talking, they had a falling out, and she dies and the main character is grief-stricken and doesn't really know how to handle it, and so she goes with this girl's late boyfriend to try and figure out what happened to her, because her committing suicide, which is the way that the death is ruled, just doesn't match up with her personality, which was one of the many problems that I had with this book. I hated this book. I gave it a 1 star. It was horrible. There were so many twists and turns that weren't revealed in the summary, which is good, obviously, but like, they would do one twist, undo it, redo it, and then undo it again. And it was just like, what is the point of adding that in there if you're not really going to stick with it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I said, I had a lot of problems with it. For instance, the girl who died and it was ruled a suicide, everyone thinking that that was really out of character for her, that really bothered me because I don't know how someone dealing with depression and mental health and taking their own life would be in character for someone. So that really bothered me, especially because the main character hadn't talked to this girl for a year. So a lot can happen in a year to a person. I don't know, I just had a lot of problems with that right off the bat. And then they did a lot of really horrible stuff throughout the book, and and then the ending was like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? What are you doing? It was so bad. It was horrible. I gave this a 1 star. I was literally laughing with my little brother, who I made read this with me, at just how horrible it was. It was so bad. I don't even remember the main characters' names. I tried to block this out of my brain because it was so bad. So, the next book that I completed was Come Tumbling Down by Shawnee McGuire. I loved this. If you didn't see the reading vlog where I read this, you wouldn't know, but I absolutely adored this. This is the 5th installation in the Wayward Children series by Shawnee McGuire, which I have absolutely loved. They are essentially like modern fairy tale novellas, and they are super incredible. The series is revolving around these kids who at one point in their life were able to go through this door that just appeared randomly, and it took them to a different world, one world that made sense to them, and the world is different per child, and then for one reason or another they have returned back to reality and they're kind of coping with the loss of this place that they felt so connected to, and they go to this home, Eleanor West's home for wayward children, because there are a bunch of other kids like them there that are going through the exact same thing, and maybe their doors will appear one day. And it's just really great, and each book follows a different character, and you get to explore the different worlds that they've been in, and it's just amazing. This one was my favorite in the series so far. I also annotated it, so I was doing a little bit more of a closer read, which might play into it. There was one character in here from the series that I can't say because it spoils a whole plot thread, but there was one character in here that I just absolutely loved. She had so many one-liners and it was incredible. This was also so sad and dark and heartbreaking, and I loved every single second of it, and now I want to go back and reread the rest of the series and annotate them because they're just so good. The next two actually go together, and that is Heartstopper Volume 1 and Heartstopper Volume 2, both by Alice Oseman. These are graphic novels that were originally posted on Tumblr, I believe, and these are absolutely incredible. It's about a boy named Charlie who has been outed at this all-boys school as gay, and he's put up with a lot of bullying, and then a boy named Nick who he meets, and he's not sure, he's convinced that Nick is straight, and Nick is not sure what his sexuality is, but they form a really, really cute bond throughout the books that maybe eventually turns into more, and it is absolutely adorable. I gave both of these a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm sure that you've heard about them before. They're super popular and super well loved. I'm currently reading Volume 3 and loving it. It's so good. So yes, 5 stars. This one was a reread for me. I read this last winter, but this one I had not read yet, so I was really excited. Plus, I'm glad that I have physical copies because the artwork in these is just so adorable. I'm obsessed. Then I listened to a couple more audiobooks, the first one being Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid that I have read so far. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This is about a girl who, she's moving back to California where she is originally from, after being in New York and just traveling a bunch of different places to kind of find where she fits in because she's not really sure, and she doesn't know what she wants her life to look like, and so it follows her going back to California, and from one choice being made, if she had gone this way or if she had gone this way, we follow 2 different timelines of what would have happened and what her life would look like, and I loved it so freaking much. It was just so good. I don't know why I loved it so much, but I did. I loved both timelines, and it's interesting because in the past I've complained about Taylor Jenkins Reid's books not being, or being too pretty at the end, like tying up too well, and this one definitely had a happy ending, I guess, and I loved it. I thought it was a great ending, but the book was not without tragedy, and I guess because I didn't have any expectations or like any knowledge about, other than the summary, what the book was about and how people felt about it, I didn't have any expectations for, oh, the ending is super devastating and whatever, which would have like probably turned me off from it. So yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was incredible in my opinion. Not everyone shares that opinion. Most people actually disagree and think that this book was mediocre, but it's my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Then I was looking up more Taylor Jenkins Reid's books and came across Evidence of the Affair, which I hadn't ever heard of. It is like a 100-page novella about these 2 people who are in married relationships, and they find out that their partner has been cheating on them with one of the other people in the other couple. So there's a couple over here, there's a couple over here, and one person from each couple is cheating with each other on these other 2 people, and these other 2 people find out together that their spouses are cheating on them, and they start writing letters after they find the letters that their spouses had been writing to each other about how they were falling in love and everything. And it's about just the way that they're dealing with it and how maybe they get through it and helping each other. It's a very real depiction, I would say, of how people deal with cheating, because it doesn't end the same way for each couple, and it didn't end the way that I thought it would, but I loved it. It was amazing. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Not as impactful to me simply because it was only 100 pages. Not that it was bad, it was still impactful, but I prefer Maybe in Another Life, just I think because I had more time to bond with the characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a novella, so it happens, but I would say that that was why I didn't connect as much with this or like feel as much, but it was still incredible and I highly recommend it. It's like an hour-long audiobook. Then I had another reread, and that was I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is one of my favorite books from high school. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars purely because of the nostalgia. I did remember everything that happened, so nothing was really a surprise, but I loved falling in love with Jandy Nelson's prose all over again because she does have such beautiful writing, and that was one of my favorite things about this book, and also the use of art. Rereading it, it's not as prevalent as I had remembered it to be, and this wasn't as strong to me, which is why the 5 out of 5 stars comes purely from nostalgia, because that was my original rating. I still loved this book and I still think it is a really great book, but it's not 5 out of 5 stars. If I were to rate it now and this was the first time I had ever read it, it would probably be like a 4 out of 5 stars. So it's not bad. This is about twins who are named Jude and Noah, and they are telling the story of this tragedy from 2 different times in their life. So Noah is telling the story from when they were younger and everything is happening, and Jude is telling the story from when they're a little bit older and it's 3 years after everything has happened, and they're all just kind of trying to make sense of what's happened, like this tragedy that has happened, and how to make sense of it and what will come of their family. And Jude and Noah used to be super close, and since said tragedy, it's also them finding their way back to each other. There are also love stories in it, and it's really good. I think 15-year-old me related more to the characters than 19-year-old me, but I still loved this. Then a book that I have been meaning to read since I read that one is I'll Give You the Sun by I just said that. The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. I gave this, I think, a 2 out of 5 stars. I did not like this. This is Jandy Nelson's debut novel, and it felt like this was the assignment to like preceding I'll Give You the Sun, which it is because that was her sophomore book, but it felt like this was a warm-up and it still needed a lot of work. But then I'll Give You the Sun happened, and that was like the thing that was meant to be published, and then this was supposed to be revisited and revised a lot. I don't know, I feel like reading this one after I'll Give You the Sun, not great, just because I'll Give You the Sun is significant. Like, there are significant improvements, writing style, character development, etc., just between the 2 books, and her growth is amazing, but I didn't care about any of the characters in this one. I didn't care about the plot. I found it annoying. I found the characters super annoying, and the way that Jandy Nelson had implemented art in I'll Give You the Sun, she did that. She attempted to do that with music, and it didn't matter to me. I was like, okay, cool, you like music, moving on. And she tried to implement weird characters and weird traditions and things in this one as well, and again, didn't care. And that is also done in I'll Give You the Sun, which is why I say that this feels a lot like prep work. I feel bad saying that. Not that it shouldn't have been published. I'm just saying it doesn't feel like it was done by the time it was published. I feel like it should have been edited more, because I'll Give You the Sun was so much better, but there are so many like parallels between everything. Not that their storylines are similar, but just in everything that was done in both books. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. I just didn't like this book. This is a book about a girl named Lenny whose sister Bailey died a little bit ago, and she's finally going back to school. When she goes back to school, there's a new kid named Joe who didn't know her before everything happened with Bailey, and then there is Bailey's late boyfriend, Toby, who obviously does know Lenny and everything that she's been through, and she knew Bailey, and so Toby helps Lenny remember her sister, and it feels like they are able to share that grief, and Joe helps Lenny to forget about all of her pain and be a new person and like develop a little bit more after her sister's death. I didn't like it. And this is one of my best friend's favorite books. So I feel bad, but I didn't like it. Then lastly, I finally finished Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is about a kid named Frank Lee who has Korean parents and they are racist. They had moved to America, and so Frank Lee is Korean American. And the main plot line of this story is that he falls in love with a girl that is not Korean, and he has to hide that from his parents. And so the way that he does that is they have family friends that are also Korean and share the same values that Frank's parents do, and they have a daughter. And so Frank Lee and this girl start fake dating so that when they are on dates with each other and they tell their parents where they are, they have a story that will line up, but then secretly they're off with their actual significant others. And then the fake dating becomes something more, but that's not really what I cared about with this book. Like, yes, it was cute, but what I really took from this book was all of the problems and familial relationship development that Frank Lee and his family went through. The last like 70 pages were absolutely incredible and super heartbreaking. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It took me a really long time to read it, but each time I read it, I would read really big chunks, and it was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that I read this, and I can't wait for the sequel, even though I have no idea what it's going to be about. It doesn't have a title, nothing, but I'm super excited. So highly recommend this if you haven't read it. It's super popular, so you probably have, but I loved this. Those were the 9 books that I read in January. I had a really great reading month. I had a ton of fun reading. I just kind of re-fell in love with it, and now I can't stop reading, which is an amazing feeling. So yeah, 9 books. That's how we started off the year. I am very proud of myself because last year in January, I think I read 4, maybe 5. So I almost doubled it, which is great. Anyway, I am incredibly tired, but I wanted to finally film this for you guys, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that you're doing well, reading mentally and otherwise. Let me know if you want my December wrap-up or not, and I really hope to see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.